So the clear parts of this one are a little bit different than I'm used to. On the side windows, all of the exterior trim and molding is completely molded in. And for the front and rear windows on the outside, the molding is also molded in on the clear parts themselves. But on the inside, there is nothing like an edge or anything to paint the black marking around it that you usually see on windows in cars. Now this of course needs to be figured out in some kind of way, but they decided to add some decals, and maybe that is due to it being a race car, and the race car windows are usually plexiglass, I believe, so they just sticker around it or just find a different method. But since I converted it to a street car, that's not going to work for me. So first off, I just masked off all the side windows, cut those out, and got the masking out of the way for them to be painted, and then put my attention towards the front and rear windows to get that marking or at least the masking for the black edges on there as well. Now in order to make it as easy as possible on myself, I just added some masking tape on the inside of the clear parts for the front and rear windows, put it in place, and then took out a pencil and marked along the edges in order to make it a little bit thicker and wider than the edge on the part inside of the body that you can see here, which the pencil is following around. And then simply just using a super sharp knife, I'm cutting it out, leaving the masking tape in the center of course, and flipping it over, masking it off on the other side as well, in order to get those rubber trim pieces ready for paint to do at the same time. The paints that I'm going to be using for these clear parts is the Tamiya Lacquer Paint series. First off, just some semi-gloss black for all of the trim pieces and the general black parts, and then also some clear transparent smoke for the inside on the rear half. So for the rear half of this side window, I will be tinting it a little bit with some clear smoke. Same for the rear window, and some indicator markers for the front lights a little bit further on. I don't want to go for a full limo tint, so just a couple of passes, about 3 mist passes and then 1 heavier pass, and that should do it perfectly for the tint level that I'm looking for. After unmasking, I'm just setting all of those clear parts aside to cure for a little while, and in the meantime I'm going to be moving on to the body. On the exterior, a couple of small trim pieces needs to be painted in a semi-gloss black. Now there are a lot of trim pieces around the entire body on all of the bumpers, the doors, etc. But I'm leaving those in body color just because I like the look of that a lot better instead of the black plastic that you usually see. Now the small trim piece on the rear bumper and in the hood, I did paint in the semi-gloss black because I think that does look good in a different color than the body color. Now for in the front bumper, there is a little bit of mesh included in the NuNu kit, so I simply just made a small template with a black marker on some masking tape, cut it out from the actual piece of mesh that is in the kit, and that could then be glued in place. Before I could start gluing in all of the clear parts, I still needed to glue on the wipers for the front, and then started putting on some glue and putting those in place as well. After assembling all of the pieces that needed to go in from the inside, or prior to fitting the interior at least, I could then fit the interior in place. However, it wasn't as easy as it sounds. Now, you would suggest that it would simply fit in place perfectly, but it actually needed a lot of trimming, cutting, and there weren't really instructions from USCP on how to do this, so it was kind of a touch and go situation. Test fitting it, trimming, test fitting, trimming, test fitting, trimming, and then once the interior fit in place a little better, I moved on to fitting the chassis to then find out that it wasn't fitting in at all yet, so I needed some more trimming and a bit more and a bit more, and in the end I did get there, but it needed quite a lot of adjustments in order to fit in, which I wasn't really expecting from USCP, to be honest. It's not a really terrible thing, but it would have been nice if they added some kind of instruction or warning, or just a general cut these parts off and cut those parts off, which otherwise is known as an instruction. So, well, nonetheless, it took a bit of time, a lot of trimming, a lot of fitting, but in the end I got there. And in the meantime, you've seen me cut out a part of the wheel in order to fit in place. Now, normally this isn't my preferred method, but since I didn't want to cut any of the suspension out, I decided just cutting a little bit, or at least trimming a little bit of the tire and wheel on the inside fitting around of the suspension components in order to get the correct offset is the best way to do it. Now, the wheels of course will not spin anymore, but they are glued in place anyway, so they wouldn't have done it either on my builds as usual. But that is all personal preference. I really don't care about the wheels spinning or not. I just want to have the stance correct and the wheels fitting nicely to my model. So this is the way I go about it. If you don't like it, that's fine. This is just my way of doing it. In the meantime, the grills were painted, and then a small bit around the edge was removed with some lacquer thinners and a small cotton swab in order to get the chrome edge back to it and just the center to be painted black. I'm now moving on to some of the clear parts for the taillights and the headlight lenses, adding a small piece of reflective film on the inside for, I believe, one of the reversing lights, and then masking off the top section of the clear part as well, in order to have that as a clear finish, and then the underside to be painted in a clear red for a clear red finish. On the headlight lenses, I masked off the main part of the lens, and then the small part around the indicator on the side I gave a light coating of smoke just to give it a bit of a different look and also tone it down a small amount. You could also do this with clear orange, but I like the smoked or clear look a lot better than the clear orange. Once those were dried, I could simply start gluing those in place. I could then move on to the door handles. The holes were drilled out a little bit after painting in a couple of layers, and the clear coat, those filled up a little bit too much and the fitment was too snug, so just a small drill bit was used to hollow those out, then they fit in perfectly. The mirrors were put in place, and then I could move on to one of the final details on the rear, and that is a custom license plate with a nod to one of my favorite YouTube channels, M539 Restorations. If you know, you know. If you don't, then do check out Sretten's channel, M539 Restorations, where he does some awesome work on a lot of classic and cool BMWs. He has an E46 wagon with this license plate, of course, and that is the one that I decided to add on mine as well, as I really love his channel and I thought it would be fitting. Now, these decals I bought from Scale Productions years ago, and I don't know if they're still available, but if they are, they will be on his website, scaleproduction.de. Now, same problem I had on the steering wheel. There were no decals for the center caps with BMW logos for the wheels included with the kit. So I first tried my hand at painting them on, and for the steering wheel that looked okay, but on the wheels it didn't really float my boat. So I decided just to steal some decals from a kit that I will be building in the future, and then figure out what I will do on that one when it comes to that, but I'll probably just print some new wheels that won't need the BMW logos. That's it for this build. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time.